Where'd it go? I don't know. I mean, if you were, I said to him, oh, it's very complicated, Mark. What? If you were going to make a science fiction story, then maybe you would say that I went to the bottom of the ocean for a while and sat there, and they had to do repairs or something, and maybe they went to Antarctica or something, some place where there's no other humans, and they got something that they needed and fixed it better. And then they, that's not really science fiction. I need something science fiction. I got money, and these guys want to make a film, but I need science fiction, right? So, I mean, we got all these people that know science fiction, like to make all the film people, right? They've done this science fiction thing for 15 years. We need something that's science fiction, like ships and stuff, right? And, well, I look at them and I'm like, well, you know, if you're just trying to make a science fiction film and you don't really give a shit about what Atlantis really was and what it was about, even though it's kind of an important topic within human history, you really don't give a shit, then probably just send it into space. So you have this city that submerges and then they fix it up and get it going, and then they send it into space. And then it becomes science fiction, right? So what then? Where would they go? What would they be doing? Like, why would they go into space? Are they going somewhere? How would we make this a science fiction show? And I looked at him and I'm like, well, because obviously this is a moron. This is a fucking moron that has a lot of money. A weasel that fucks people over and really needs to get fucking smashed down by somebody one day. Right? But man, I'll sit and talk to the fucking weasel about what's going on. And give him some ideas and watch him rip me off, and watch all his buddies rip me off. And then we'll all have a fucking talk about it later on. So I'm sitting there on the patio at Turk's, getting more agitated because I still don't have a smoke. A friend walks by and I bum a smoke. I'm still looking at this fucking yuppie weasel beside me who can afford to drive around in a fancy car, eat out every day, all this shit, and he won't even go down and buy me a $2 fucking cigar while it sits and picks my brain and fucking rips me off right in my fucking hood where I fucking spent almost 20 years of my fucking life. But that's the way it goes. Right? North Shore people, well rich, come down. He's got his place in the North Shore, comes over from Toronto, goes to the North Shore, talks to all his Yahtzee buddies. Hey, we need an idea. Hey, go talk to Chris. He knows lots about science fiction, mythology, shit like that. I'll give you an idea. So, here I am with this fucker. Space. They went to the bottom of the ocean and went into space. A city that goes into space. Wow. That's right, I can use that. He said. So what are we on? 3 ideas now? Atlantis was a submarine, and then it goes into space. That's 2. There's probably another one in there, so we're at 2 or 3 ideas right now, right? I think it's 2. It might be 3. So it goes into space, and then, well, then what? What are they doing in space? Why would they go to space? Well, you know, I mean, your last show was Stargate, right? Okay, so it's like gods versus the army, right? So, well, we just expand. You can reuse all the army costumes, make the army guys happy. They'll give you more money. So you just make it like they go into space on a quest for the ancients, right? For the ancient source of wisdom and life, where human beings began, or where spirituality will end up, or something. And you say, oh, that's good. Here we are. Idea number 3. They go up into space. They submerge. It's a submarine that submerges. They fix it up, and then they go up into space. Want to search for the ancients. Kind of fits with the previous Stargate shit too, right? And he's like, oh, hey, well, what then? When they're in space, they're on the journey for the ancients. What would we do next? We need more than that for a series, right? So, you could reuse all the stupid makeup people that, well, sorry, there's lots of good makeup people in Vancouver, but there's a few that are like, you know, all they do is like cat people and vampire people, and they've been doing it for years, and I'm kind of tired of looking at it, but they work here, so maybe we'll give them a job. So just make it like vampires in space versus army in space. So they're on their trip for the ancients, and then it's the army, of course, takes over, because anything where, you know, you're going to go off into space and talk to, you know, something spiritual, you need a bunch of soldiers with guns there, because they're the ones who know the most about spirituality, right? You know what you think? Anyways, so off to the origins of the universe we go, trying to find the ancient ones, and we have a bunch of army fuckers on board with a few morally righteous scientists and whatever, and good people to get towed along the way and make a big moral tale, and oh, they beat vampires in space. So it's vampires in space versus army in space. Oh, excellent. You can reuse the vampire effects for 2-3 seasons, just fucking more and more army outfits. Just easy, army shit's easy to do, you know. Give a fucking monkey a fucking camo suit and put a fucking gun in their hands that a 12-year-old can operate, and fuck, you got yourself a TV series, right? They don't even have to really say anything. They can just go mouth their words, and you can just pop other words in afterwards, like a Fellini film, right? So, army in space versus vampires in space. So, well, what then? What then? What are we gonna do then? So, I don't know. I don't know, at that point I think you have enough for a series. But did I ever tell you about my... Think of this, a single power supply that powers everything. One block. It's like the size of a battery today. And you set it down and there's plugs on it. Everything you can plug into it. It'll plug a whole house for 200 years. Portable nuclear generator. I don't think he was quite done the last 2 seasons of Stargate SG-1. He asked me about that, and I said that. So I think may have some attachment to my ideas as well. But anyways, that's the story. That's the story of how Stargate Atlantis was conceived, and how the first pilot season was constructed. He took the Moran's tape of the conversation with me, Christopher Don Taylor, and Robert Cooper took that Moran's tape and gave it to his secretary or his technician guy, and they ran it through the computer and turned it into a bunch of text. And somebody cleaned it all up, because I swore a lot, I'm sure. Kind of course do. And then he took that and handed it to a bunch of senior writers. Said, make us a series out of this. I still haven't got anything. I haven't gotten paid anything. Not a penny. I got hired for 1 season of Stargate Atlantis to work as a visual effects editor. Season 4. They paid me 18 grand for a year. My buddy over in the extras, you know, the extras for Stargate, the guys that stand there in the back holding a spear while, you know, some big thing explodes or whatever, you know, those guys. He made 50 grand a year every year he worked for Atlantis. And those fuckers hired me to be a visual effects IO, input output operator, digital input output operator. Essentially a visual effects editor without the paycheck. I got 18 grand and I got spit on every day, basically. I had to walk through a movie set of people where everybody was laughing. laughing at, look at that faggot we ripped off, look at that fucker, ha ha ha, isn't that funny, he's making less than any of us. And it all came from him. Nobody gets left behind.